Mike and Kim brought out a great video a while ago, a few weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago, which was all about how our baptisms would be null and void if you actually think about it, because we're told that our baptism, actually what we say as we're being baptized before we're baptized, is that the second question that we answer is, do we understand that our baptism is to signify that we are dedicating ourselves to God, and specifically to his spirit-directed organization, earthly organization, namely Watchtower. And only recently they've actually admitted that they are not spirit-ordained, that they have not actually been chosen as the anointed ones yet. They've not been designated as the faithful and discreet slave. And if that's the case, then how on earth can it be said that our baptism to that organization is true? Because no one actually knows whether or not they are the organization of God. Of course, I don't believe that God needs specifically an earthly organization to function, because the Jewish system failed, which was his earthly organization at the time, and that really flopped. After God gave them a million opportunities to sort themselves out, they never did. So that doesn't seem to make sense. It's interesting, another YouTuber, I can't remember who it was actually, but did bring out the point about, oh yes, it was on the channel Primitive Christianity. That's the new name for it. I can't remember the old name. Alright, I'm actually how to say it, because it was quite, I think it was like in Latin or something. So I thought, oh, that's fancy, but no idea how to pronounce it. Anyway, they brought out right, Primitive Christianity. What was it? Oh yeah, talking about Jeremiah and how he was a prophet of God, and he was on his own, effectively. I think he had one or two, with him. I can't remember that. I think he had a scribe with him. I can't remember. Anyway, basically, he was in the very much the minority against what was God's earthly organization at the time. And God's earthly organization at the time put him in a cistern in the sewers. And you do think that, well, it is at least possible that God's earthly organization of humans could be wrong, and that one man can stand up and say what is right and can actually be right and be persecuted by God's people. And that's not an idea, that's actually scriptural. You can read it for yourself, Jehovah's Witnesses. So when people say that there is no way that we can look outside of the society's literature, there is no way that we can scrutinize society, there is no way that we can question its authority. Hello. The Bible is littered with examples of individuals standing up to that authority, questioning it, and saying something's not right with this. Obviously, the prime example would actually be Jesus Christ himself. And of course, Jehovah's Witnesses and all Christians would agree and accept that Christ had the authority to actually question and to point out what a terrible organization it was. The organization of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the whole system in that time of justice and of faith. But at the time, other than his miracles, he seemed like a man. They wouldn't have seen him as vastly different, unless of course you got to know him and hear his teachings and see him. Someone's veering off in lanes. I'm on the motorway. So you wouldn't necessarily know. And yet Jehovah's Witnesses will be so arrogant that they have the truth and that there is no one else that may have something to give, that may have something of value. And you see the whole mind control when you're looking at, like the latest, broadcasts, when they show, not actually the broadcast, it was, the conventions, videos as well, how they show what it's like to shun a disfellowshipped child, and they often put a lot of emphasis on what is being said and how it's being said and how you should act and all the rest of it. And obviously with those videos they would take a lot of time in trying to perfect how they're portraying themselves and how they're portraying the society, because how they put it is that they do not want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name, therefore it has to be good quality. Notice in those videos how cold and how emotionless the parents are, and how when they're talking to each other, and if the actual brothers and the sisters will talk to each other, how lack of human emotion and lack of human ability to communicate, it's so lacking. And sure, you think, well, they're bad actors. Well, to be honest with you, I think they're pretty good, because that's how Jehovah's Witnesses actually are. They cut themselves off from their heart, and they close off a part of themselves in order to put what they believe, and all respect to them for doing this, by the way, but they cut off what is human, and what is loving, what is kind, and what is decent, and what is common sense. That if something doesn't feel right, you need to question it. But no, they don't do that, because they have to put God first. And I agree with the idea that obviously I believe that there's a God, but even if there's not, I do agree that people have to function as to what they believe, along with what they believe. But I don't for a second think that it's natural to do all of that without allowing yourself to use critical thought. You must ask why you're doing the things that you're doing. Otherwise you become an emotionless robot that doesn't think for themselves, but just functions on what it's programmed to do. And that's what the JW broadcasts do so well. They are not broadcasts of encouragement. They're broadcasts of programming, of propaganda, which is one and the same thing. They know how our minds work. How many times please JWs, please answer this for yourselves. How many times do you end up crying when you're watching, the broadcast? I'll tell you something. When I was first watching them as someone who did believe that Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth, I cried like a little girl. It was pathetic, because I genuinely believed that this was the right way, and they were spewing out beautiful truths from God, and it made sense, and it touched a nerve, and it went straight to my heart. It didn't go there, it went there, and it was so it went there. And the problem with it going there is that it bypasses here. And if you don't allow yourself to think about things, you then act without thinking, which is obvious, but not to Jehovah's Witnesses, because if you're not questioning whether or not what you're being taught is, biblical, whether or not what you're being taught is from God, then you're going to act and react in the ways that the organization, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, want you to. And it's always about being loyal to the organization. It's always about not bringing reproach on Jehovah's name, which is not Jehovah's name. It's just not bringing reproach on Watchtower. And when you allow yourself to replace the word Jehovah with the word Watchtower, when elders and when circuit overseers and when the broadcasters, presenters are talking, when the governing body particularly are talking, you then begin to see quite clearly and quite drastically how they're not actually saying Jehovah, they're actually saying the Watchtower. The examples are endless. You just have to watch it and read the, actually read the literature, and it's just so blatant, But the main thing that should wake people up, for goodness sake, it's about time, is they're hiding child abuse. And if they're covering up child abuse, you don't know what else they're actually covering up. How on earth can you trust an organisation that covers up the, raping and the emotional scars that we can only imagine if you've not been abused, that the organisation's covering? It's beyond horrific. It's beyond most people's sense of bad, because it's so bad. It's, without being rude to Satanists, I'm going to use the word satanic because it's the best word I can think of, okay? It is satanic, and it's disgusting. It's just, it's like taking a cup out of the sewer and drinking that. It's just horrific. And I don't know how anyone in their right minds that allow themselves to think and reason and do what they believe is right to accept that. It's about time people started to think for themselves and to wake up to the filth that is this organisation. I think it's okay to destroy children's futures and happinesses. So for all of those that know what they're doing, I pray that God punishes you, or if you believe in karma, that it comes back like a bitch and you hurt in the way that you've hurt others. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you really don't see that this organisation is bad and that you're a part of it, I pray, please, that you can start to try and actually open your mind to look at what is true, and to allow yourself, give yourself the privilege of being able to think for yourself. Because this is where it comes down to, is you're not allowed to think. All you're allowed to do is tell other people about God. And your friends are those that are Jehovah's Witnesses, and no one else. And everyone else is deemed as bad association because they do not believe what you do. But how can you blame them for not believing what you do when you cover up child abuse? So yeah, I pray that you can see it. And when you do see it, and the house of cards falls down like a sack of potatoes, like it does, that you try and get the help that you need, because this organisation leaves scars far deeper than than we actually realise when we're a part of it. You're building up baggage that you don't know that there is. It's like being on a drip of poison for a long time, and to detox that out of your system once you've come off of it takes a while. And sometimes you need to have a period of actually weaning yourself off of it. For me, that was watching a lot of YouTube about the organisation, having to regurgitate beliefs and look at why I believe things. And I think it's important for some, if not most, to receive professional help at some point as well, not too long after you've seen it and after you've done the research and looked at it for yourself. Because most of us have, if you believed it to any real level, you're going to have a pain and damage, and you need to have that helped with. Now, I mean, some people can deal with it, but really a lot of people don't deal with their issues, and I think that's sad and unnecessary. I think people could do better with learning to deal with their issues and become more rounded and loving and caring. Anyway, that's me going on. That's what I think anyway. I hope this has been helpful to some. Have a good one. God bless.